I would hope that that we can demystify the process of change, that we can break it down to a point where a person doesn't have to wait for crisis or disease or diagnosis or loss or betrayal or some crisis in their life where they really decide to change. That if we can provide people the understandings of how to do that, I think, and make it more practical, I think hopefully more people will utilize it and learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration instead of pain and suffering. I would also love to see that, and this is happening right now, that the other elements of healthcare and chronic health conditions be addressed, which has to do with lifestyle and teaching people how to think differently and how to make different choices and how to behave differently and how to create new experiences and how to feel differently. And with the understanding in medicine that could potentially produce a change in a person's health, albeit if they take medications, pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, exercise, doesn't matter to me. It's just that if that emotional component is never addressed, then the person never returns back to homeostasis and balance. And that's 75 to 90% of every person that walks into a healthcare facility is walking in because of that. So the responsibility for the patient then in understanding that they have a hand in their health and in their choices, and teaching people then that meditation is something that's normal, that it's a great way to reset. It's a great way to get your body back into autonomic regulation instead of autonomic dysregulation, which is stress. And then of course, that 4-minute mile, that people see that there are options to change terminal conditions and other health conditions if the person keeps showing up for themselves and keeps applying it. And certainly that I'm not trying to push positive thinking or positive psychology. I'm hopeful that it's seen as something else, but really some practical applications for people. So we don't go so quickly into what's predictable and what's normal, and that people live healthier and happier lives, and that we do learn how to get along and take care of one another and heal one another, and really hopefully in a different world. The whole reason that we decided to do something in the corporate world is because the majority of people that are living in the corporate world or living and working are unhappy, and they're actively disengaged in the work that they do. And companies and organizations are learning that a happy employee is a healthy employee. Everybody's talking to people how to be more innovative, be more creative, be more communicative, but nobody teaches anybody how to be anything. And they spend the majority of their time in emergency, and no organism in nature can live in emergencies, let alone an organization that's based on people. Sooner or later, those people will break down. And then what is it to change again? How do we teach that? And how does a person learn that they can manage their emotional state? And what happens to them when they don't, and what the outcome is, how that is biological, and what that does to ourselves, and also in how we communicate with one another. So we have these courses that we offer companies and organizations, and we teach all those things. And the outcome is that we want people to be more of all those things that they would love to see others be. And so how do you change a culture is you change individuals. And so we do a lot of cultural change. And we work with Sony and Cisco and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and Google and Microsoft. And, we've worked with a lot of big banks and companies around the world. And business leaders right now are really interested in the model of leadership and what it really means to lead. And so conversations have changed dramatically. And I think change has to happen from the bottom up and the top down. And so we have a pretty decent corporate model of what we teach, and people seem to do really well with it. My trainers are very intelligent, very smart, very, very, very proficient people. Well, let's just assume in the principle that your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this program has created the present personal reality called their life or your life, which means if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. Mm-hmm. And that means you're going to have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and decide if you still want to accept, believe, and surrender to that thought as if it's true. Or do you want to actually have a different thought? So what thoughts do you want to change? And if you looked at how you spoke and how you behaved, if you complained, if you made excuses, if you felt sorry for yourself, if you mismanaged your time, whatever it is, and you didn't want to be that person any longer, if you could become conscious of those unconscious habits or behaviors, you would be in the process of change. And then if you said, listen, how do I finish my day? Do I finish my day feeling sad and tired and unhappy and suffering? Is that the emotions that I want to live by every day? No, I want to be happy. Well, I got to stop feeling unhappy then. So if a person took the time to write down a couple thoughts they wanted to change, a couple behaviors they would like to modify, and certain emotions that they would like to stay away from. The word meditation literally means to become familiar with. And those thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that have become attitudes or habits or emotional conditioning is just something that we've done so many times that it's automatic now. We're unconscious to them. So we have to become conscious of those unconscious states. And that is kind of breaking the habit of being the old self. So to know thyself is such an important element if you truly want to then make a change. And so then the next question would be, well, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? And if I put my attention and intention behind it, I could begin to install the neurological hardware. Keep practicing it, firing and wiring, and it becomes a software program. It becomes more automatic. That's the new voice in your head. You installed that. And then if you said, how do I want to be with my children? How do I want to be with my partner? How do I want to be at work? How do I want to be in traffic? How do I want to be when I'm by myself? And what would a great person do? What would love look like today? I don't know. What would it look like for me to master myself? And you sat down and closed your eyes and you rehearsed in your mind what you were going to do differently. The act of mental rehearsal begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you already did it. Now the brain's no longer a record of the past. Now it becomes a map to the future. You're priming it to the future. Install the hardware and keep doing it, firing and wiring. The hardware becomes a software program. You automatically behave like that person. No magic there. You install the circuitry. Then if you said, well, look, I truly do want to be a happy person, and I do want to be in love with life, and I do want to feel worthy to receive things, and I do want to feel grateful. I'm done feeling suffering and pain and unhappiness. Then you would have to practice actually feeling those feelings. There's no mystery there. You'd have to become familiar with those emotions, and you'd have to sit there and say, can I teach my body emotionally what my future self will feel like before I'm it? Because that's how you're going to become it. And if you keep trading those limited emotions for these other emotions, these new chemicals, it'll begin to become familiar to you, and you'll become familiar in thought, in act, and in feeling. And so if people took a little bit of time to be in the never-ending process of self-discovery of how we did in our day in terms of evolution, we could demystify the process, and people would begin to see changes in their life as a result of it. And that's why we do it. I mean, we shouldn't do it for any other reason than if we truly change, our life should change. And I think most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality. And many times it doesn't work. We literally have to become someone else. So I like to demystify that process of, unlearning and relearning, breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self.